Mike, you guys ready?
Okay, we're gonna turn this back over to John to have the support group.
We're
here.
just right at 1 o'clock here in the afternoon. We've got a couple of appearances with the support group. Eric, I will let you call them up in the order, however you please.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Corey who's here with us, and he has been approved to return back to work. He's been a great member of the support group and has come a really long ways. We're really proud of him. And I'll let him kind of tell you what's going on with him.
Hey, thank y'all for having me. So I was working at Baptist Crittenden in West Memphis and had a prescription for Adderall, let it run out. So I started diverting. I since have been at Cornerstone and completed their program. I've been with the support group since September of last year. And now I'm here before you guys.
I think originally it was a diversion reported through the hospital itself.
Yes, sir.
For the meds. And it seems like it's something you'd had a prescription on before, but just had not been getting prescriptions and instead had just gotten from stock.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any specific questions or you need to hear more about?
I know a lot of times they want to know, have you made restitution to them?
Yeah, I made a
What did your amends process look like?
I made a donation to their Baptist Cancer Center there.
Oh, this is a question I always like to ask. What have you been doing with your time since you've been out of practice?
Been working on the farm.
Hey, that's the best kind of work. Yeah, out in nature.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how long have you been out of practice now?
April of last year.
Okay, so a year, a little over a year.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And you're just requesting to go into practice at some set amount of hours.
Yes, ma'am.
What are you farming?
Rice and soybeans.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Big time farming.
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
I mean,
That
generally,
was a good-
the couple of questions you guys are asking, which I mean, he's, of course, been very straightforward about this the entire time. We've gotten successful reports back from support group. Eric can probably let us know like how long he's been tested, any issues with testing or meetings.
Yeah, no, he's had so from September 2025, he's had 20 selections, all test negative, 281 check-ins, 1 missed check-in, and complying on all his reports, checking in with his monitor.
Completely forgot to check in one day. So one miss.
That's like an automatic test anyway at that point. So.
Right.
The main questions for the board are generally, the two, one, are you willing to let him go back to practice? Yes or no? And then number two, under what circumstances? I mean, generally it's the starting out at 20 hours a week, supervised until he gets advocacy to move up from there to a time or amount of time that would not be supervised. And then it would be down the road somewhat to hear if there were any other advancement to being able to act as a pharmacist in charge or anything like that. We are unaware of any law enforcement issues that are outstanding for him or any cases that might have stemmed from this. Corey, I don't know if you have had any interaction on that or not. So, if anything did come up, it would be a surprise to both sides of the table here.
So were you out since April 2025?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you just wanted to stay out for a length of time? I mean, I know there's a certain length you have to, but did you want to come before the board earlier, or this is just the first time that it's?
This is the first time that it's
Okay.
come up. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
He's already on a monitoring contract as part of his post-treatment entry with the support group. That's where Dr. Crumball has all of the monitoring results and tests. Generally, whatever decision the board makes, it extends the monitoring contract basically to match. I mean, our general contract now, the board has generally said indefinite on those issues where it's involved, impairment and drug diversion. Just why he's got a license, he's going to be monitored in some way. I don't think board staff has, right? Yeah, the first 5 years you would be on probation. The first 5 years, 20 hours a year of some sort of community service that he would need to log also.
But we don't have to make motions on that. It's already.
If you, I mean, you could motion them separately. Yes, we're approving him to go back to practice under this. And then the conditions, you could do it as one bulk motion of, yes, we're approving him under those outline conditions to release us to give him a probationary consent order.
Which was our little standard contract.
Yeah.
I would like to make that motion, that he be allowed to, go back to work on our standard, contract.
Okay, Dr.
Second.
Newsom made the motion and Dr. Fouché seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes.
We will get that prepared probably this week and get it back to you.
Awesome. So next up is Dr. Ty Towers. So Ty, you want to tell them what you are requesting?
Yes, sir. Hey, everybody. My name is Ty Towers, and I have been under contract now for a little over 2 years and been working for a little over 1, and I am requesting credentials to be a PIC at this time.
And the support group approves. He's been a great, Ty has come a long ways. I think he's a really a good example of, when somebody finally falls in line and starts doing what's asked of them. And, he's moving his way up with CVS, right? Ty?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's, like everybody in recovery, life's not always a fairy tale, and things happen, and he seems to be dealing with that well, and talking to folks about it. And, I fully support him as PIC, and so does the committee.
And so everything is going well with you, Ty?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Recovery wise, everything is going well. But I mean, as Eric said, life doesn't quit lifing. But everything is going. I mean, I think it's going great, to be honest.
Okay, how are you dealing with those life events?
Well, I know how to ask for help now. Where used to, I would figure everything out on my own. I think I've surrounded myself with a good tribe, and just asking for help has been very beneficial for me.
Okay, so you have no problems asking for help?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. That's a great move.
I had an issue separate from pharmacy that had popped up with a legal issue, but in some ways, because of his recovery program, he had basically paperwork and proof that it was not a sobriety issue. It did not put his sobriety at risk or his practice of pharmacy. I think he was pretty forthright, letting the support group and us know exactly what was happening with that situation. And it's a carryover from old history, basically. Ty, where the fish biting?
This time of year, I mean, they start biting at nighttime, to be honest. But I've been driving down to Lake Monticello. I don't know if I should be saying this where it's broadcasted everywhere. I've been trying to keep it a little hush hush, but I've been driving on down there.
The good fishermen say Lake Conway's doing really great right now.
Yeah.
There's water in it.
It's exactly right. I've been catching them, at Lake Conway, right in the side of the mouth.
Yeah, I'd like
Okay.
to make that motion then, that he be allowed to be a PIC.
Okay, Dr. Newsom made the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Ooh, that was maybe a tie. That goes to the runner.
Clint on it.
Clinton made the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
You got next, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Are you able to see Heather?
Yeah, I can see Heather on my screen. She
Oh,
just
there
has
she is.
it. As soon as it makes noise, it'll pop her up, but I've got her up as well.
All right, well, let's let her go next because I've been blowing her phone up because I didn't think. she
I'm
was
like,
on.
I'm here, I promise. Hi, I'm Heather Haynes, and I've been in the group for a little more than a year, and I have recently been working at Collier's up here in Fayetteville for a little bit over a month now at 20 hours a week, and I'm requesting to be able to increase my hours there. I feel like I've been enjoying working at Collier's and feel like I'm kind of hopefully getting, the hang of Pioneer and everything there. But I think if I could increase my hours, I might become a better pharmacist for them.
Increase for 32 or for 40?
Increase from 20 to 32 and be 32 unsupervised.
Yep.
And Heather's been a great participant in the support group. And I know she was a little nervous this morning when I told her it was a full board meeting, but I told her not to be nervous. It'd be totally fine. But yeah, she's been a great participant. We fully support her going back to work 32 hours unsupervised.
Heather, you've been working longer than a month though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about
Colliers a month ago.
almost 2 now
Okay.
at Collier's.
I'll make a motion to approve 32 hours unsupervised.
Okay, Dr. Jolly made the motion.
I'll second it.
Dr. Newsom made the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Heather. All right, and last we have Ben. Ben, go ahead and let them know what you're requesting, please.
I am Ben McMurray. I'm in the same situation as Heather. Been back to work 20 hours supervised for 2 months and just looking for an increase and unsupervised.
Ben's another really good example of when somebody falls in and starts doing what's asked of them, things start to change. Really proud of Ben. He is very quick to call or text, where before he wasn't quick to call or text, and let us know what was going on. And he's been a model participant, and we fully support him going to 32 hours a week unsupervised.
Anybody have any questions or you want to make a motion?
Where are you currently employed?
Anderson's Discount Pharmacy in Fort Smith.
Okay. I'd like to make that motion.
Hey, Dr. Newsom made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I
Go ahead,
guess.
Rodney's got it.
Okay. Dr. Richmond seconded. Can I, is anyone, I can't even think of the words. What is it? We vote for, does anybody in favor say aye? I couldn't remember my,
Aye.
okay. Anyone opposed?
We're gonna skip in directly to opposition.
That motion passed too.
All right, congratulations, Ben. So for Ben, Heather, Ty, we will mark all of that in your files. So we've got it on the record. For your increase in hours, Ty, your PIC, Corey will have an order out, hopefully this week. Dr. Crumball, anything that we need to know that you saw at Utah School that we might not already know? Or
One
do you have
quick
somebody else?
question on Ty. Does he need to take the PIC exam?
Ty, have you taken it before? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll check it. If not, shoot us an email and we will email you that PIC exam. It's open book. Take your time with it, answer the questions, get it back to Miss Sweet, and then we'll have it on the record that you've also passed that.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. And so, a couple of weeks ago, I was afforded the opportunity from the board to go to the American Pharmacists Association's Institute on Substance Use Disorder. It's at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. I would highly encourage anybody to go. It's a couple of day symposium. There's continuing pharmacy education. There's probably probably over 100 attendees. Mostly students, but there's a lot of board members and people that run the pharmacy recovery networks, like myself. So it was really good to network with them and, basically talk about substance use disorder disease. There's several pharmacists that work in SUD clinics that, talk about their practice. And it was, and then you end the day with a 12-step meeting. And an open 12-step meeting, and it's a great experience. And so I hopefully am going to try to go again next year. So I would invite any of you guys or girls that are interested in going. It's a good experience from the education standpoint, but then I think it also gives you tools to help address when you come across somebody with an issue with substance use disorder. And so, I mean, there's no magic bullet or magic key to whatever, but just knowing what options are out there and kind of what everybody goes through, I think is really good for pharmacists to know. Or students, if there's any students that want to go, they're welcome to go as well. And you get to climb a mountain.
It's just a small mountain, but it's still a mountain.
2,000 feet. I went up 2,000 feet. I got all this up 2,000 feet.
You should have brought it all back.
Without dying. Yeah. No, it was a great experience. A beautiful campus too. I've never been to Salt Lake City.
Doesn't it butts right up to the Wasatch? Doesn't it butt right up to the Wasatch Mountain Range there?
Yes.
It like that's the edge of campus and you hike one of the peaks, one of the afternoons. I mean, as Dr. Crumbaugh knows, I was able to go 3 times during pharmacy school for different stuff, both for university and then with APHA. And it gave me an incredible amount of insight that was very, very useful immediately in my career here with the Board of Pharmacy because of what we deal with. And we've been able to send, I know several of our board members have been able to get approval for that as a meeting election over the years and staff as well. So it's a great experience.
Bad for the sinuses. At least that was my experience. But dry.
It is
it's
very dry. Very dry. Drink lots of water.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for Smart
Awesome.
Room. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
It's
Yes. Yeah, come on up, guys. Okay. Yeah. It's what we. Yeah. Oh, yeah. that me or is it you? We'll probably have them introduced and I can explain the procedure we're trying.
Do that.
You guys want to introduce yourselves? You know the trick, hit the button, it'll turn green eventually once you hit it a few times. There, oh, first time.
I'm Darren O'Quinn here today on behalf of Dr. Daniel Cate and his pharmacy, Cate's Pharmacy.
And I'm Daniel Cate.
Hey, so for the board members, just real quick before I turn over to Ms. Vales, you'll see we did go ahead and put together an order notice of hearing for this in case it's needed. We're treating this more as an informal than a formal today. A very short version of a long issue is, Dr. Cate had been before the board previously and was still on probation in the last few months of that. And we had it reported to us that there was a potential coupon violation. So we called up Dr. Cate. He immediately pulled it down, but I told him he's going to have to come meet with the board about that issue, basically. But with that, since it's informal, I'll turn over to Ms. Vales. She probably has a more thorough overview than that. I'm sure they want to talk to you and you've got questions for him and we'll figure out what you guys want to do. Vales?
Dr. Cate signed a disciplinary consent agreement on August 30th, 2024 after an informal hearing. As part of the agreement, Dr. Cate was to be on probation for 2 years from the date of the signing of that agreement. He had complied with everything that he was told to do otherwise, but the probation remained outstanding for 2 years. On April 23rd, 2026, Dr. Cate posted on his Facebook page of Cate's Pharmacy and Donuts an advertisement incentivizing patients to have their friends transfer prescriptions to Cate's. And the patient referral program, as advertised, allowed for a current patient of Cate's Pharmacy to receive a store credit when their friend transferred their prescriptions. The store credit could be used on any purchase, including pharmacy, coffee, donuts, local vendors, or Row Casa products. And staff feels like this is a violation of his probation in that he failed to comply with pharmacy board rules and governing statutes. So in your tablet, you have a copy of the disciplinary consent agreement. Behind that, you have the actual Facebook post that is at issue. I think what Mr. O'Quinn passed out to you was his effort to fix it after the fact. But the one that we took issue with is in the packet or on your tablet. And again, there's an order of notice of hearing. That's simply to provide notice to Dr. Cate of what we were talking about. You don't need to make findings of fact on that.
How did this come to the board's attention? Okay.
Yeah, there's just below the coupon that ran on Facebook, there's a little synopsis there. It says April 29th, 2026, approximately 9 a.m.
Okay.
We were called about it. This is a screenshot that I actually took from my Facebook, which is why it says comment is John Kirtley. It wasn't me posting. It's just that was part of showing like the date and the time and where it had come from. We routinely get calls on stuff like this whenever the newspaper has an advertisement that there's drugs from Canada or anything, it's the same type of thing. People call us. There's not a whole lot we can do about that other than since that's not a actual pharmacy, generally, we turn that over to other authorities. We called Dr. Cate. He immediately, I think, said like, oh, shoot, I didn't realize that would still be an issue. And it was down immediately.
Issue that he was on probation for disciplinary consent agreement. This subject matter of the consent agreement, is it relevant to this?
No, I don't believe so. It was about some issues with paperwork and inspections at the previous pharmacy he was at that we found on inspection like a day or two after he had left.
So the apparent relevance to this is just the fact that he was still on during probation.
Still on probation. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't on probation for any kind of coupon program or anything first time.
So had he not been on probation and did this, would he still have to come here before the board or?
In the past, I tell you, it's been years since we've really faced one of these. We have a lot of people that call us and try to see if this type of approach or that type of approach would be a violation for us. So we avoid most of them that way. It's been 10 or 12 years, probably since we've had just kind of an outright coupon violation. I think part of that is because, with his, it was on Facebook and other people saw it that might not have gotten it in a mailer or at the counter or something else. But when we had those in the past, we'd bring them in to informal and the board would make some decision. A lot of the similar violations we've had in the past would be like pharmacies preparing notepads or prescription pads with the name of generally a compounding pharmacy, or to try to get around it, they wouldn't have the name on the pharmacy on the front of it, but on the back of it, have the name of the pharmacy and a map to get to the pharmacy, which the board was like, you can't provide that.
It says that it started on April 21st, reflected 2 likes and 3 shares. You know when they went up?
We can, I'll get Dr. Kate to tell you. Maybe tell them how this all even evolved into this.
Sure. So the whole concept, like I subscribe to an independent pharmacy sort of email list that it's called Diversify RX. They send out things that are like marketing ideas or ideas for services to provide and things like that. And so this was one of the things that they had sent out. It was a video saying, hey, it's a way to incentivize your current patients who are probably already doing the word of mouth advertising for you to be telling others about your pharmacy. So thought, hey, this sounds like a good idea. Specifically in the video addressed like, hey, you're incentivizing not the current patients and customers, not the transfer prescriptions. And so, you're not violating anything in that way. And so I did not do what I should have done, called Dr. Kirtley and ran that by the board staff beforehand. But my intent with that was just, hey, we're a new business, about almost a year and a half old, and still growing our customer base and patient base. And so the intent was, yes, build some goodwill with our current patients and customers that are already out there, passing word of mouth along for us. And then also, yes, to grow the business.
Dr. K, tell them, like, normally we think of that you're sending out an ad to people you don't know and telling them to transfer their prescriptions for you were offering this to your current customers to go out and.
Correct. So, yeah, so the idea
kind of the reverse of the regulation, but you still understand the nuance.
Right. Yes. So when I looked at, understanding the rules, I did not understand it to be that this would be any violation of any of the board rules or any rules on any higher level. Certainly. And if I had I assure you, I would not have put this out or even attempted it. Definitely not trying to, toe the line or anything like that. I didn't think I was getting into any gray area there.
How long was the ad up?
The ad went up, I believe on the 23rd of April. And then as soon as I got the call from Drs. Kirtley and McCready, I took it down. And that was the 29th of April. So it was up for 6 days.
What's got this coupon? It's not the issue here, but tell the board kind of what you did once you learned about this issue, why we have this.
So that other paper you were handed at the beginning of the hearing was a mailer that we were working on simultaneously to go out to just a couple of the surrounding neighborhoods in our area. It's got just, free donut coupon, free coffee, 10% off your retail purchase. And we had already been working on this as well. And so after, I can't remember the exact date, but after, my conversation with Drs. McCready and Kirtley, we were just about to send this off for printing, and I said, okay, well, I need to practice what I ought to have been practicing before. And so I actually called up Dr. Holland and sent him the proof, and he discussed it with board staff, and they said that it was cleared for being mailed out. So
this is 10% off excluding prescriptions.
Correct. Yeah. So that was already in there because I know we cannot discount prescriptions. And so that that was the furthest thing from my mind that this was, that the referral program would have been violating anything. And I was trying to follow that rule as well with this mailer as well.
During the 6-day period that you had with other, did you actually honor your coupon?
We had one person, yes, that one of our customers that referred someone and received a credit. We've since made sure that they haven't used it on any prescriptions or anything like that. And no one else received any sort of incentive in any way.
And from the board staff side, just historically, the way that we've seen it, the bright line is if you tie an incentive to someone filling a new prescription or transferring a prescription, then that has traditionally been what the board would see as a violation. You can't tie it to the requiring of filling a prescription or bringing a transfer. But, very clearly, what Dr. Kate is doing now, like if you want to say everybody that comes in on Tuesday, whatever date, gets a free donut, no problem at all. Oddly, Medicaid used to years and years ago have problems with those types of incentives. As Dr. McCready can attest, like I think Harvest Foods probably 25, 30 years ago said everybody that comes in gets a free 2-liter soft drink. And the agreement was Medicaid took the value of a 2-liter soft drink off every Medicaid claim they had during that time.
That's correct.
So there used to be some real hard line things that even on insurance, like for Medicaid. Now I don't know that that's paid attention to, but we'll have pharmacies that when they have these discussions with us, it's you can give a prize or something, a value to everyone that comes in and meets the pharmacist. Don't tie it to filling a prescription. Don't tie it to transferring a prescription. Don't tie it to anything around that, and you're generally fine. And you can do a senior citizen discount and list that. That's actually outlined in the rule as well.
Anybody else have any questions?
The question is, what do you want to do?
Yeah, no question. So what would we like to do? It's treated as informal.
Yeah, it's treated as informal. You can have a full discussion about it.
Okay.
I'd say admonish them in a letter encouraging them not to do it again, charge them $250 administrative investigation cost and non-disciplinary.
Yeah, now we're really starting to see the farm.
Right.
Is that a motion?
It is.
Second.
Okay. Dr. Richmond had the motion and Dr. Boone had the second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries.
We will reduce this to writing and send it to you because you do have the opportunity to either agree or disagree with it. I can tell you that irrespective of your probation, that is basically the exact action that I recall the board taking on one of these issues years ago. It was a $250 penalty. That one was about actually printed copies that went out. I have no idea how many people used it or anything else, but anyway. All right. Thank you, guys. We've got a tad bit of time, so we'll let all the interns in the back introduce themselves, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you want to do when you grow up. Start on the end right there. Where are you in school? Hey, where are you from? Briscoe. How'd you find U of A other than they give great discounts to Texas students? Yep. I've got a lot of friends from Texas that wound up with kids at U of A, and my son's just finished his freshman year up there and has a lot of friends from Texas as well. Yeah. Yep. Yes, sir. So how many people are in your class at Cabot, since it's like the largest school in the state? Yeah. The joke is you could meet someone new every day of high school and not meet your whole class.
Oh.
No. Yes, sir. Okay. So you're in Walton School?
No.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. Yes, sir.
I'm Brady Bledsoe. I'm a upcoming.
Okay. You in a social club there? Okay. I was a Kappa there, but that's been a minute. Back row.
I'm Malcolm Foster.
Okay. Now, you're just trying to get away from the foot of Cantrell Hill eventually. Right. We have a little bit of time for our 2 o'clock. Are you guys joining us for anything specific or just here to watch? Who are you? Where are you from? Okay. They said anything's better than being in the pharmacy, so go watch the board. Good deal. Well, I know we need to stick to 2 o'clock really on our Act 630 stuff. Dr. McCready has a couple more agreements that have come in.
We had 2 more consent agreements come in, one for a pharmacist with consent agreement for continuing education. Made up the hours she was required to make up and paid her penalty. And we have also one that was a change of ownership violation by PrimeRx Software. Paid $3,500 penalty, no disciplinary, both consent agreements. Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Dr. Jolly made the motion. Dr. Clint Boone made the second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
What else am I forgetting, Dr. McCready? What? Oh, yes. I was about to say, I knew I had something else. If you guys will look down, where'd it go? Number 5. So with our proposed rule changes to allow for offsite order entry in retail pharmacies, after yesterday not having questions, my hope is that we will get through unscathed on Friday. It may be, depending on when that gets done and how quickly I can get paperwork, generated and processed with the correct dates. We're looking at sometime in the very first, week or so of July to have an effective date for the rules, if everything goes well Friday. With that, we know that we have a plethora of retail entities that have been waiting and watching for this rule to become effective. The way that we had done this traditionally with hospital systems when we started this rule over 20 years ago was that each individual hospital system would have to come in and get approval. Over time, the board became much more comfortable with that process to where once a hospital system had been approved, once an external vendor had been approved, then if a hospital added a location or an external vendor was adding another location, basically board staff could review and approve that. The rule reads it has to have board approval, but at risk of stacking up a, either August or October meeting with 50 people with the exact same request for you, I put together this MOU. This is kind of my thought process. If you hate it or love it, I'll take the blame or credit either way. But to allow for in this defined way for people to go ahead and apply, to acknowledge they're not doing this to try to cut staff in stores. They're doing this to either add service or add additional, route of service for them, that they understand the pharmacy requirements of the rule, that they have reviewed the application or has been reviewed by staff, and the board staff could do initial approvals of these. And, we'd be happy to present these at the next board meeting for just a final sign off on it so that we wouldn't have a bottleneck process in this. With that, you've got that section of the rules specific to retail pharmacy offsite order entry for entities that are still wanting to do store to store. That is still the same process it has been. I think we may have another pharmacy that wants to do both store to store where they could use technicians between the stores, as well as have their actual staff pharmacist, whether they are in the other store or in an offsite location, be able to do this. So some people may want to do both processes or get approval for both, but for just adding this would be a potential proposal. I'll give you guys some time to look at it, answer or ask any questions that you want answered from our perspective, any suggested changes. A staff request for ease of both the board and the staff would be if we could get this approved as a process for people to use once the rule is effective.
This would allow a pharmacist to work from anywhere in the state?
It would allow a pharmacist employed by a pharmacy that has this approval to, if they are unable to come to the store that day, if they are sick, if they are traveling, if, whatever the situation is, if they have secure connectivity through a mobile device of some sort, then they could get on and actually do that work from wherever rather than having to be in the permitted pharmacy itself.
But only if there's a reason, not just. I
Well,
work from
the
home
reason is
every
they're
day.
not on site.
Okay.
The
So you
way
could
that,
just be at home working every day of your life.
but under the understanding, it is not being used in order to reduce pharmacist staffing in the pharmacy itself. Most commonly, we see, I'd say 2 requests. And one of them is with some of our updates for like long-term care and trying to be sure that the pharmacy has an order before they release drugs for the emergency kit. Then if it's the middle of the night or if it's on Sunday afternoon, the pharmacy's not open, the pharmacist would be able to securely go and do their DUR check, make sure they've got the order and release that med. Instead of when I worked in a community pharmacy, I had to go to the pharmacy to do that in the middle of the night or to say, actually, we did deliver that. Are you saying that you don't have it? Do we need to do another order? Is it an emergency? And then I'd have to prepare it and tote it to the home instead of being able to release the emergency kit. The other one is, as you've seen before, we have pharmacies that want to use this because it would open up the opportunity for them to have interconnectivity with like an assisted living facility in the state, because currently they could not do that from another state.
Okay, you defined several situations where, I understand why it might be used that way, but could somebody just simply work from home?
I think if they have approval for this, if you're adding a pharmacist that we have some people with, various handicaps or other things, or that just want to work partial hours from home, it would fit in that. That's the way it could work for the hospitals currently.
Okay, so taking out the example of somebody handicapped.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Or, a lot of times it's the reason I'm given is a lot of people that want to work part-time, this would ease up some, but we have people that would just prefer an off-site job where they can just sit there and process this and not be bothered.
How are we going to satisfy notifications to patients on page? Is that a label?
What we've done in the past with both central fill and off-site is the pharmacy has a sign up letting people know that part of their prescription may be processed at an alternate site. And you'd need to have that in your HIPAA disclosure from a HIPAA standpoint for patients when you update that.
We're the same way we do central fill.
Yeah.
Thought we had talked about the pharmacist had to be a resident of the state.
No, they have to be licensed in Arkansas.
Okay.
Because what we've done, just like with hospitals, it was only allowed for pharmacists that have a license as a pharmacist in the state of Arkansas, but they don't necessarily have to be in Arkansas.
Well, because it's after hours, right?
Yeah. Well,
This is not after hours. This is in hours.
some of the hospital stuff is not after hours.
I didn't know there were any hospitals doing in hour unless it was common ownership between two facilities.
They've done some of that. Yeah.
The third party vendors, they're doing.
I don't know.
overnight.
You're correct. I don't know of any third-party vendors that are doing during normal hours, but with critical access hospitals, some of them are doing daytime because the pharmacy is only open reduced hours and they're bridging that. The workload balancing side is the part that gets a little bit different because to your point, we've got some hospitals that are workload balancing from a larger hospital to the smaller hospital during the normal workday while there's employees at both.
Yeah.
Am I right in assuming that the pharmacist would have to be a W-2 Social Security paying employee of the pharmacy?
When the board was deliberate about saying employed, they specifically did not use the word like contractor, the way I would think of it, it's not a 1099 contractor, it's an employee of the business. I'm sure I have seen pharmacies that they actually employ their direct employees under a 1099 contract though. And just basically tell them up front, we're going to hire you, we're going to pay you on a 1099, you get to pay your own FICA, federal taxes, you're responsible for all that.
I'm not a tax lawyer.
Yeah.
But I don't think that dog hunts.
Well, I've seen it now, and Harold, I will tell you, the couple of times I have seen it, it wound up being pharmacies that got in major trouble with DEA.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to offload their responsibility on other laws by saying, this is a contractor of ours, not a direct employee W-2.
Well, I think the acid test or the litmus test is if you direct the actions of the employee, then they can't be considered a 1099. They have to be
They have to be W-2.
There's a list of, I think, 10 factors like providing the tools for work and so forth. But I'm assuming that what you're meaning by this rule is a genuine employee.
That's the way the board instructed us to write the rule, which we put employee or employed by.
So they have to be employed by, they have to be licensed as a pharmacist in Arkansas, but they can be doing this in any state.
And part of this request, some of you have seen states like North Carolina took a slightly different approach on this. But I mean, there are some data centers that are used to back up community pharmacies. And we have one with Walgreens here in Arkansas. Our current rule, I mean, they're all licensed pharmacists here, but our current rule has not allowed them to do that action for a pharmacy in another state. This would solve that conflict for them, but it could also open up on agreement if they had a data center in another state with Arkansas licensed pharmacists. Those pharmacists could also do it for here.
Pharmacists only, not.
Pharmacist only, unless it's between two Arkansas located stores.
So how would that apply to a mail order pharmacy? Let's say that had one licensed Arkansas pharmacist who was, say, sick that day. Could they have another, could they use this mechanism we're doing here with another Arkansas licensed pharmacist?
Well, it gets a little bit weird with that because this is talking about the filling of prescriptions in the state of Arkansas in pharmacies here. And we have some pharmacies that are probably technically mail order here, but they have to have an Arkansas licensed pharmacist working in the store if it's here in Arkansas to operate at all. So where it gets weird though is the out-of-state pharmacy has to have an Arkansas licensed pharmacist, but they are not necessarily working all the hours the pharmacy is open. Okay. And they're not necessarily touching every Arkansas prescription, but because they are our Arkansas pharmacist in charge, if something goes bad there, they are the responsible party as the individual.
Yeah, that's our hook on
That's our hook on it. And I think something like 18 states have a similar approach to having their required pharmacist license. I mean, you got, like, I already have people that go, well, when are you going to adopt this for technicians? And I'm like, our board is not there yet. That would be an entirely different regulatory process to allow, I mean, because we have people, when are you going to allow technicians to just do order entry from home? And I'm like, I can't tell you when that will happen. I can tell you there's nothing that I'm aware of on the stovetop, getting heated up for that. But it's, this is a huge thing that has been asked for by industry that the board, took on and has approved. So why don't we work on making sure that this one works and the future is going to happen in the future?
So is not being used in order to reduce pharmacist staffing in the pharmacy. How can we track? How will that be tracked?
We can ask, and that's what we've done with hospitals as well. It's like we have a pharmacy discussing with us right now. Dr. McCready and I do, and they're like, "Yeah, we've already pulled people off the front line to do." I'm like, "That's not how this works. If you're saying now that we can do offsite, we're going to dump two pharmacist employees, then the board can revoke this." And now, given it's probably going to be complaint driven, but if we see that this was added to it and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they decrease pharmacist hours for shifts in a week, then the board can remove this authority.
Yeah, it's not going to change technician ratios. So
Nope.
At some point, they're still going to have
Got to have a pharmacist there.
But I am concerned there's going to be some unintended consequences to this. And
I tell you, if I was a pharmacist in a pharmacy that got approval for this and they cut pharmacy hours, I would file a complaint with the Board of Pharmacy because the pharmacies had to sign off that they're not reducing pharmacist services on site. And if the board gets that and say, what were your hours a year ago? What are your hours now after this is approved? And you've changed it, then we would bring it before the board and the board could revoke this and tell them, that, well, the board doesn't have authority over adequacy of staff apparently, but at the same time, we're not going to allow you to offload pharmacists serving patients in a patient-facing manner.
That's a little bit of my concern is that there's going to be someone that's very metrics driven. And I know, it just concerns me that one pharmacist that's used to having somebody there with them is going to come in one day and find that they're the only one there, but they are still being helped by two people or in some other state, maybe even working in a store that's not as busy, but they're going to be the one patient facing with the customer and just,
Well, and you may just want to see the first batch.
Yeah.
To see how the applications go.
So currently in this state, can a pharmacist work at home?
No.
Like at Clint's store?
Not legally.
Sit at home and do the work?
Not doing off-site order entry. If they're doing it, it is not a legal construct in the state of
there's
Arkansas.
one more step than that. We've had people come in and say, hey, we have an office across the parking, two parking spaces over. They want to do this and they haven't been able to, and that would enable them.
But now they can do it
Well,
here and
yeah.
elsewhere.
Traditionally, they've wanted to also like compound at that office or have drugs there, but to the point, and this is it's an interesting conversation with like ambulatory care center pharmacy. I was pointed out to me yesterday, back in 2001, the law was passed to allow that type of permit, and the board's never, there's no such thing as an ambulatory care pharmacy, because generally it is a pharmacist working under their professional, authority and their professional scope in that. They're not dispensing, they're not generally preparing drugs. They could administer drugs. You don't have to be in a pharmacy to administer drugs. So it's never really been used. To Dr. Boone's point, now, if you wanted to set up a facility like this, which Walgreens very specifically did, people know that, they got it permitted as a permitted pharmacy, and they get inspected as a pharmacy, even though they have no drugs whatsoever there. So they were able to do it under the guise of, it's a permitted pharmacy doing it for permitted pharmacies. And they, frankly, because it is a pharmacy that's inspected, they could also include technicians to do it in that pharmacy under the old rule we've had for 20 years. But if they have another office that's on another floor, or something like that, then we could use this. We've run into that in settings that were, you know, a retail pharmacy in a hospital, but it's not landlocked, but it's, you know, it's out of space, but they could have another office just for this with this approval without it having to be a permitted pharmacy.
And if all goes well Friday, this is one of the things that would be active July
If,
1st?
no,
No.
if you decide to adopt this, if the board says, we're not sure how all this is going to look and schedule the first few for this August informal we have, then we can do that and we can have the board look at them.
Common MOU is beneficial here, just because if not, you're gonna have
We're going to rewrite it every
100
time.
different agreements. And they're gonna be hard to follow. So I do think that's positive. I think there's some positive things about this that are gonna come out of it. But I do think there probably needs to be a little bit of follow-up and there may need to be some tweaking.
Yeah.
Down the road.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of positives out of it.
Yeah.
I do think there's some potential for some unintended consequences, but I guess we're just going to have to monitor that.
I think we're going to have some growing pains. You guys want us to bring in like a first sample group in August and see it and then consider this? Or something along these lines?
I think it'd be beneficial to hear how people are using it. Like,
or how they intend to.
Yes, how they intend to use it. Maybe initially, I don't know if you get 100 of these, if we're going to be able to do that, but.
Is it very different than hospital or, I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
It is. But I mean, Dr. Jolly knows this better than anybody. Most of the hospital stuff, like all these people that you saw, the ones that are pointing out they're doing it for critical access hospitals, most of the critical access hospitals are small enough that they have to have a pharmacist on site 20 hours a week. A lot of the other small hospitals, it's 40 hours a week if they've got like 50 beds. But they have stuff that, you know, patient admits, stuff coming in all throughout the night. So they are engaging the service of these off-site pharmacists for either the daytime hours or the days when there is not a pharmacist on site, or in the overnight, so that they can actually review any orders, make any processes, identify any contraindications elsewhere in the patient charts. They're doing all that clinical stuff to put it in the system to have that clinical review, rather than the old approach. And tell me where I misspeak on this. The old approach was there's an order, the nurse just has to get it out of the machine, and the next day the pharmacist has to figure it out and hope that nothing went bad.
Yeah. It was retrospective.
Yeah, it was used to as a retrospective analysis. Most of this is about adding the ability for a pharmacist to, you know, potentially work from home or to work from another office that wasn't the pharmacy itself, or when it's overnight to be able to log in and check stuff, especially long-term care, or if they are traveling, you know, if the people that were at the Pharmacist Association meeting last week, if something came up on the store, if they've got this type of approval and went, we don't know what's going on, you know, Joey is sick and like puking up his guts in the restroom, we're one person down. Can you get on for an hour and help us do order entry? Since we've got that approval, they could go to their secure location and do that to help.
I've got an idea on how we might want to pursue this thing.
Sure.
Why don't we set up a test project where we select 5 or 10 people, maybe the first 5 or 10 to apply, or maybe the first 5 or 10 selected by staff as being representative, and do it as a temporary measure, just as a test for some period of time to see how it works and what problems come up before we throw it open to everybody in the state to apply.
I mean, we might get a gripe that somebody was number 11 and thanks for holding them up.
Okay.
But to your point, I think if we say we have enough time on specific board meeting that we can only schedule this many for review, then it's the first few that get a time slot.
I'm thinking that we set it up as a temporary program.
oh, and then have them report then?
That's limited, and then we'll decide what works or what changes need to be made or if it should be continued. I think that ought to get you around any discriminatory issues. We'd have to decide how you determine who the initial test subjects are.
But if the first few that sign up don't really go at it full force, we won't get much information.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I know we know a fairly large entity out of state that'll probably apply immediately, a big one in state that will, and a couple of independents that will. Oh, sorry. Well, the rule would allow it upon approval. So basically it'd be a test approval for a few people.
So where did I'm sorry, Lenore, where did this, why did we do that? Why are we doing this? I mean, what brought it up?
We're passing the rules on it, and with the rule, it's how exactly we're going to implement it. So knowing that we had to have some sort of approach or model to help us all process it, I put this together. Once again, I'll take all blame or credit. Had staff review because it outlines the things that I had heard the board members express concern over, or that the staff would have concern over, as a possibility. Because the other thing is, everyone who asks, we fill up the agenda and we start asking random questions, and the fourth person gets there and we'd wish that we asked the first three the same question. We just came up with number 4. At least this gave us an outline of what we're looking for, an acknowledgement.
But the rule is there. We're just trying to find a way to work.
This is the implementation of the rule
Okay.
that is in process.
I don't think it's at the test stage. It's already here, right? We
The
just
rule-
need to do it.
The rule will be there. The question is how we implement it, because it does require a board approval. And I think part of what, Harold is actually saying is maybe do this, but only approve it until an official review by the board, and ask them what they're like. If we had people, if the rule becomes effective, say July the 4th, because it's a fun day, and the next week 4 people applied and we gave them this until the August date, it would be have them come in August and discuss how it was going, to see if it would either be continued as approval or denied.
Yeah, have we not done a workload sharing process
We
with the company?
have
in the
done
past?
it pharmacy to pharmacy.
Right.
Because we started 20 years ago. I mean, or 18 or something. Because when I got here at the end of 2004, they were finalizing the rules for hospitals. And then a few years later, so it may have been 16 years ago. I'd have to look at the rule. We did it for retail, but at that point, it was only approved to go store to store. And part of that reason was people wanted pharmacists and techs in it. And with the supervision to be there physically with the tech, it needed to happen from a store. So we had several stores that did it. And, personal observation is when some med error cases happen, that it was a pharmacist at another site that did not have the knowledge of this store because they've been over here the whole time. A lot of that just kind of died off because the pharmacists from this store weren't comfortable just doing workload balancing for other stores. Some of the stuff I have at least been told is if you have a pharmacist that's their only duty, they're much more comfortable doing that offsite review for multiple locations, which is why we have the data center here, and some other companies have those backup data centers.
So is any of that going on now, or did it just all
It's
kind
all,
of die off?
it's all store to store. There's a little bit of it going on. We actually have, it's funny because initially it was all the big corporation pharmacies got it and used it. And then there wasn't that much of it. But the last few years, we've seen several independents that used it to help with some workload balancing from different stores because they got it as part of their approval with Central Field. As people invested in automation, robotics to do things like multi-dose bubble pack or M&M bubble packs, doing MedSync programs. If I have 5 pharmacies that I'm involved with, it's way easier for me to take all of that packaging technology and put it in one as a central hub. And with Central Fill, you just about have to do offsite order entry. So it was part of the package deal with Central Fill. Then Walgreens built their center here that I think has worked pretty well as a backup for their Arkansas stores. But if they could offer that service to people other than just Arkansas stores, it would help them to be able to, I think, justify the number of people they could fit into that space to back up other stores.
Our laws prohibit what they do outside of it? Or would that not be other states?
Our law only allows you as a pharmacist currently to do offsite order entry between 2 Arkansas located pharmacies. So it's a weird one. We can't control what the person in Iowa does for the person that's in Kentucky, but we control what the person in Arkansas can do from Arkansas with somebody that's in Kentucky. And this also opens that up.
That cuts both ways.
Yep. It also would open up for, under this type of agreement, someone from, and, you know, I hate to keep using the same examples, but, you know, if, I don't think they have it, so it's a decent example, but if Kroger had a data center with pharmacists to help with offsite order entry for their pharmacies around the country, they're all employees of Kroger, but it could be in Cincinnati near their headquarters. It could be in Kentucky across the border. It could be in West Little Rock. Right now, if it was in Cincinnati or somewhere in Kentucky, they would not be able to do that for Arkansas stores. But under this agreement, they could get approval to also use that center with Arkansas licensed pharmacists only to do it for Arkansas pharmacies and Arkansas prescriptions here. I fear I have made this way more complicated than it was, but I've done so in making it complicated now to try to make it easier later.
Board approval, you're gonna have to have something like this, so, because we can't hear all 100 of the requests, and they all want to build theirs different. So you put together something, if they can follow this rule to the letter, they could do it, and then if we get a complaint and they didn't, we'll bring them in just like anything else. It seems to me that it's pretty clear as to, even though we muddied it up a bit, it's pretty clear what can be done that's different than today.
I think you could also have them submit a letter of how they intend to use the program.
Yeah.
And you can track that. And if they ever have, you know,
If they
if something
don't.
ever comes up or we've got to come back in, and it'll give us some insight into how it's being used. Is it being used to reduce, you know, staffing in Arkansas, access to care, anything like that? Would, you know, we would have something at least in writing showing like, hey, here's what they said their intent was.
So they should take this rule and write their letter of intent, and it needs to match this rule before they send it in, so they don't add the other 5 things they want to do. Just send us how they're gonna use it and how it complies with this rule.
Basically, they'd send a letter as a request for approval.
Yeah.
And then do you guys want to see them in person? Or do you want to review the letters and just have them as a package like we're going to do with drugs here in a minute?
I would say review the letters, and if we need to see them, then at that point have them call, you know, come in, but I don't think we can see all of those.
Don't schedule them. We can have staff review any, you know, concerns with the letters. We would anyway and try to straighten it out.
Is there any value in adding any language in here reinforcing that an offsite pharmacist does not impact the required pharmacist to tech ratios?
No, because I don't think it would matter, because the definition of supervision includes physical supervision.
Okay. And then could we add any language in section 2 that the board may request a written report of how this is being utilized at any time?
Yes.
So that if we do get some type of complaint, that we've got some action we can take that rather than maybe necessarily just bringing them in, we can request that they provide a report to the board on how they're utilizing their offsite order entry MOU.
Yeah. I mean, we can add the board may periodically request a report to ensure that, you know, to report how this is being used and also to have assurance that it has not impacted patient facing staff or something like that.
Yeah.
I know that. Yep.
Well, I've heard a lot of ideas jump around, but we've already voted on the regulation and the changes are coming. This is implementation of it. This is a sample MOU. And we would like, I'm just trying to clarify this for myself, but we would like to have basically an addendum of how they intend to implement this. Is that, because I know we talked about that once and then we talked about maybe only upon inspection, but it seems like it makes sense to me that when they submit this MOU, that they would give us an addendum of what are they using this for? What are the content?
Well, the rule is going to require some of that even with the MOU. If you look on page 4, it goes through, I mean, they have to have a request, which this would be part of the request for approval, and we could do full approval at a board meeting is the way I looked at this. But they've got to have a policy and procedure manual that explains how it's going to be maintained, you know, all the pharmacy, at any pharmacy that's involved in the order entry, that it's available for inspection. Each pharmacy or pharmacist required to maintain only those portions of the policy that it requires, but it has a whole outline, like they've got to make a policy procedure manual that they would be able to submit, and my apologies for not pointing that out earlier, with the MOU or the application for the board. So
it's going to be submitted to us initially.
It has to. Yes. Yes, it has to be available upon. So to Dr. Boone's point, like the letter request could be their policy and procedure outlining all of this. That's actually a really good point, because quite frankly, I think you're going to have some people that go, hey, I just want approval to do this. And when we've done an MOU for like multi-dose bubble packaging, it's just you sign the MOU, we sign the MOU, you're good. But on this one, I mean, you have to have a policy and procedure. In reality, we need to probably just get a copy of that policy and procedure because we can add it to your scan file for the store.
Let's say staff had a checklist for the things that had to be that were in the parameters of what we're all thinking about as being approvable. And the staff could come to the board at board meetings for final approval and say, we've got 16 applications, you know, and they all fit the normal criteria, but we have 3 others that don't, that raise issues that we haven't contemplated.
Yeah.
I would much rather spend my time looking at those 3 that don't meet the criteria than the 16 that do.
It would seem that this follows the rules on automation. We require a policy and procedure manual, we require ongoing monitoring to make sure that your system is working. To identify where the problems are. So this seems very parallel to that.
That's the way it was written. The interesting thing is with automation is once we have approved a specific piece of automation, then another store just has to have their policy and procedure in their files and notify the board that they're also going to use a Parata or a Script Pro or whatever it is. This one is a little bit unusual because we don't have that established list. It's brand new.
That thought process, it would seem to me that it gets around infringing selective bias, that you've let other people, you've discriminated against other people being able to implement the program. I mean, we're doing due diligence we've implemented a new rule. We've got a process that we're going to follow. We're going to take a sample, we'll quality assure it, identify what the problems are before we open it up in a broader sense. I mean, to my knowledge, we don't know who's going to apply as we sit here.
No.
So there is no foreknowledge that we're anticipating discriminating against any one group. It's just, we're going to take the first like you suggest, maybe take the first 10, whoever those 10 are, follow this process, do the monitoring and see how it works.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that, then we're gonna have them
How
send
about
the letter
this?
in and check the first few.
It sounds like we're gonna see what comes up before August. And, cause I mean, I think that if we say you have to send us your policy and procedure, I think that we're going to have some people that their policy and procedure is going to be about half a paragraph, and we're going to send it back and say, you need some more definition in this. And then I think we're going to have some people that are going to give us a 3-ring binder that's the most detailed thing ever, that are ready to go on it. But I think in August, we'll probably have a little better sense of who's trying to apply at the time, and bring before you the ones that we don't have concerns about or that we do, and let you guys give us some thumbs up or come back in August.
Well, just a clarification.
July, excuse me. I keep
Kind
saying
of
August.
how Harold was talking, but so what if they put their letter together, send it in, and maybe they're a little different, so we bring them in. But what if they're really wanting to do this and these other 5 things? I mean, we're not trying to bring them in and determine if they can follow this rule. We really need them to follow this rule. And
Well,
by
they have
that, I
to
mean,
follow the rule.
well, no, but they might want to follow the rule and do 5 other things too. So,
So what are the 5 other things though?
no,
Yeah, I
believe
mean,
me,
that's,
but I don't know that we're in the position to be picking out, okay, your 5 things are great, your 3
Oh, I
things
got
are
you.
not
Yeah.
great, these 7 things are okay. That's just gonna turn it into so muddy. They just can't go past this rule is what I'm thinking.
Well, if those are the 5 things, by the Arkansas law, they can do them. If they don't, we can't, we just can't add that onto a MOU.
well, and
That's what, okay,
I
that's
think-
what I'm trying to make sure.
I think Dr. McCray and I have discussed before, like, we've had pharmacies that piecemealed together central fill, and they're like, well, we want to be able to do offsite order entry for each other. And when we talk to them, they're like, yeah, what we're really working towards though, is if this works and we see how well our 2 systems combine, like we're able to tie them together with our software vendor, then later we think we can do some MedSync and just fill it out of one location, and we'll go stop. Apply for central fill that includes offsite order entry in the store to store offsite order entry. This is different right now, because otherwise you're gonna have to come to the board twice for 2 separate things instead of one that includes both. So if the 5 different things are, we really want to do central fill and line this up because we're going to share from store to store. And if the pharmacist is at home at night and there's a long-term care call in the middle of the night, we want to be able to do that. It's all right. These are 3 different issues, 2 of which can be solved with your appearance for central fill. The other one is this other offsite order entry. Then we split it up and have the board,
Okay.
I think, try to prove the individual.
I was just hoping this wasn't gonna be used for us to figure out every time, can this one do these 5 and this one do these 3 and this one do
I would
7?
think that that staff would determine when you get the documents, if they fall in line with what the rule is. And if not, then we go back to them and say, this, and this don't fall in with this rule. They don't belong in this MOU. Now, if you want to do this and it's legal, we'll do it over here on a different platform, but this doesn't fall in this MOU.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'm looking at this as a singular issue, especially since it's so new and so fresh, which is what we've done with new issues traditionally. We'll see what happens at the end of July.
So do
I mean,
we
it'll
need
only
to-
be like 3 weeks in for the rule. I'm gonna be gone for 2 of those weeks, so I won't be worried about it then. I'll turn my phone back on when it's serviceable, and dear Lord, who knows what messages will be in there. Yeah, there'll be 3 or 4 messages, I'm sure.
Do we need a motion for this or we're?
No,
going-
not for that.
okay,
I mean, the
okay.
motion would be if you wanted us to do some very specific action to pre-approve before, but if we're gonna have an informal in July, then but this gives you something to look at and think about. I'm happy to print a copy for anybody that wants it to take it home and digest it.
Read
Yeah,
it.
We'll make copies for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
You'll add that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, for anyone who's getting ready, when they ask how to proceed, it's like, we're going to need basically a written request to engage in this rule, and we're going to have your policy and procedure manual on exactly what you're planning on doing with this. And, of course, as the rule says, you can't use it to reduce your staff. So what is this for? If it's after hours, adding service overnight when someone's on vacation or traveling or someone is sick and not in the store, that's easy.
Yeah.
If they say, we've traditionally had 4 pharmacists and we want to reduce to 2 and have 2 people work from home, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
Now, if they came into the board with that and said, well, the difference is these 2 pharmacists did nothing that was patient facing. They literally were in we have a pharmacy or 2 that they literally have a room that all the people do is process prescriptions. So they don't counsel patients, they don't see patients, they just process prescriptions. We have a couple of long-term care facilities that's the model. It doesn't change anything functionally in the store for them to do it somewhere else, unless they're trying to use those pharmacists as part of their tech ratio, to Dr. Bennon's point, which that doesn't work that way. There's not virtual supervision. Okay. Down to where is it? Y'all need a quick break?
Depends on how long this section's gonna take.
Well, I'm looking for my 6:30. There's a whole heading for 6:30 of 2025. Yeah, I was looking for it in the list. It's at the top of your documents. So if you get there, for what all you've got there, there's an overall packet for review, which is a couple hundred pages of all these individual drugs. There's the application list for board review. And then there's actually the Act 630 document itself that explains the act. If you guys want, I can make copies real quick of the application list so that you can have that in your hand at the same time that you look at the other document.
You talking about the 2-page document?
Yep.
Print that? Yeah, that might be helpful.
And it just has some quick notes. Brandon? Make us like 10 copies of that. I would ask you, when you look at these, we have requested the people who have sent these in. I had 2 more that literally just came in overnight. Anyone who called us, we asked them to have these in by May 15th for review, realizing that we're not going to have another meeting for a month. These 2 came in. I just went ahead and threw them on the stack if you want to consider them. The companies do have some information here that they would consider to be a potential trade secret or would be protected under Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. The things that I think would fall in that would be like the actual specific number of patients when it's a very small number of patients, because if this is the only drug that might treat something and there's, say, 5 people in the state of Arkansas that has it, at some point that might actually be indicative of a patient's treatment, which could be problematic. I think that most of them would also argue that it is a trade secret who the contracted pharmacies that they have on there. If somebody asked us, we would have to make a determination of that. You guys have a list of whatever pharmacies were reported in those as of current for this time. The drug names, the drug cost, the methodology for how the drug is actually administered to someone, that is all public information, whether or not we have it or not. We'll have that list here in just a second. But when I look at the manufacturer name, the DBA name, you get through all of that. This is our contact with the corporation. When we look at these, they acknowledge they've read the act, the name of the medication, the generic name, if it's a rare disease state, like all that's public. It basically gets all the way down to, the patient caseload. There have been, we can see that, but there are some potential trade secret issues with the patient caseload and with the pharmacy list. I think those are the main 2 things anyone would argue would be protected. As you all know, and Ms. Vales can back me up on this, I believe we sent you the actual court decision on the Novartis case. That is a 55 or so page decision. That decision has a whole bunch of specific things in there of what the judge said would or may or may not be legal or illegal or would be considered to be problematic with the law. I believe that's either 7 or 8. But with that, at the same time, the only ban that the law actually did was it enjoined the board from having any, from that law basically existing at all for Novartis. We've had a couple of companies that have sent us interesting letters asking that we have confidential letters from them, which they know they can't be confidential. We can't just make anything we want to be confidential. But basically saying with what the court said, they've asked the board not to take any action on any applications at this time or to do anything with the law. Bioindustry has asked for that. But the problem is I'm not an attorney. If I misspeak, someone can watch the recording and critique it. But we have a state law that says we have to take timely action on this. And our interpretation of what we're supposed to do with it for the granting of exemptions and exceptions. And the court saying that it doesn't count for one company. There may be another court case. There could be a decision tomorrow or this afternoon that we're missing that enjoins the entire law or that stops us from taking any action with it. But until, unless and until that happens, we have no choice but to follow what this instructs us to do, which is why we're here today. Once again, my request is, as we look at these, I think many of these, you'll see just my brief notes. I think that they already meet 630 criteria the way that it's intended, that it would not even potentially need a limited distribution network. My request would be any that you believe that you want to say you agree they already meet 630 or that you would grant the limited distribution network for that exception, we could go ahead and approve. If there's some that you are not comfortable thinking that either they meet 630 or that you would not be comfortable in granting an exception, I would probably defer a decision on those where we could actually tell the company the board was not ready to approve this. Would you like to add some more information to your packet for reconsideration at a later date? We're having an internal discussion of when we have a meeting, if we're going to deny people, we may want to do that on an official record, even with a court reporter, because if they want to file if they want to file an appeal, they need a transcript of that denial officially with the court, and that would be helpful for both them and for us. Otherwise, most likely the court will just kick it back to us and say, you're going to have a hearing on this to deny it, and it's one extra step for us. Harold's my other attorney here. That all make perfect sense in a gray world. And I've got the page number in the document on the left-hand side for each drug so that you can look at them on your pad. You guys ready to go? Boy, everybody's excited.
When you say meet 630 criteria, can you give us a quick rundown of what you mean by that?
Yes, I'm going to pull up the actual act. And when you get to the act, that's not the
I
act.
couldn't find the act.
And John, this policy, did you
The implementation, yes. That was our roadmap of the timeline of when we were going to do stuff. I'm gonna have to pull up the act. Hold on. If my computer will work.
When you say that the application here to meet 630 criteria. 630 criteria as outlined in the implementation.
It's in the implementation. It's also in the act itself as far as the things that they would have to meet. So when I'm looking at that, I'm going down the act. that it has a description. Get to it. Shall not restrict or limit prescription medications more than 3 months after launch. Anyway, allowing for upon request or application by pharmacy at least, and here are the things that are pointed out. A local network of public institution, academic, medical center access. That's number one. Number two is geographic diversity of access within the state. Number three is diverse access for local for-profit, not-for-profit pharmacies in good standing with the board, have experience in accreditation, managing expensive, especially limited drug. Number four, pharmacy meeting medication-specific United States Food and Drug Administration guidance or requirements for the appropriate handling of the drugs. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're printing it. Okay. It's really that one page. I think it's page 3. So when I look at some of these applications, and I mean, if I look at the very first one even that starts on page 1 of your book, when we go through, so all of the ones in this, in basically the AstraZeneca applications, you know, they have kind of their preceding, their model and everything else. They have open access for self-defense, self-dispense for certain types of entities, hospitals, self-dispense, community clinics, government entities. So they talk about all this healthcare. Their distribution model provides access to the product. That's on their page 3. They facilitate access by public institutionals, geographic diversity, and diverse access. Like they are literally answering in their application how they believe they're meeting that. When you get on further, and it is on page, it's like page 13, or even 12, they describe that they have access even all the way back, question 28 on page 10, is it available to Arkansas residents in the following ways? They tell you how many pharmacies are actually in that. If you see that, page 10, number 28, they tell you the specific number of pharmacies that are already given access, which includes distinct pharmacies and specific to specialty pharmacies, which they're using as a general term, to ship to patients in Arkansas, which would be generally out-of-state pharmacies in addition that have a permit here. They outline kind of their reasons why they approve these, many of which are about things that would be required anyway. Storing, handling, delivering the product, compliance with package insert, and geographic concerns. That has to be done anyway. You have to have temperature-controlled products, temperature-controlled. There's no REMS on this specific drug. When you flip all the way to page 13.
Okay, John, so pages 1 through 14 is just one drug.
That's the first drug.
Okay.
That's that one.
Yep.
So page 14, 13, 14, those are all the pharmacies in the state of Arkansas that currently have access to that drug. So if I look at the requirements of, it has a local network of public institution, academic, medical center access, I believe it meets that. I believe it meets geographic diversity of access within the state because it has pharmacies all over the state on that. You know, each geographic or congressional district, or, you know, not every county is going to have it because it's too far to the micro level. And then I think you have diverse access that includes for-profit, not-for-profit pharmacies that have expertise, and I think would have, one of the other things is talking about same-day service. They have that.
Same. What is number 4? Same day
Number
service?
4 is meeting medication-specific USP guidelines.
Okay. 1 is local network, AMC access. 2 is geographic diversity. 3 is for-profit and not-for-profit.
Number 1 is local network, public institution, academic, medical center access.
Yep.
Number 2 is geographic diversity.
3 is for
diverse access, for-profit, not-for-profit.
Okay. And is that it? Or a 4th one?
I mean, section 1 talks about same day access, but it was not one of the requirements. There, I thought I had something else. Reasons for the limited distribution networks by pharmaceutical manufacturer are not often disclosed, may not operate with optimal patient safety and same day patient need in mind. Once again, not a requirement. Above that in B, limited network shall allow, so even on a limited network, some pharmacies in this state, upon request or application, to participate and access the medication to meet the needs of patients with same day access in this state without requiring patients to use out of state or in state common mail carrier. So if I look at this drug, the way it's presented and the pharmacies that are already listed, it would be difficult if, I don't know how I would make a case that they don't already meet those criteria.
Why would we grant because they're applying for.
They're applying for the LDN exemption in case they need it. Even though I'm like on most of these, I will tell you, I don't think they need the limited distribution network approval because I think that they meet 630 criteria. And I think that the answer that I have given is they would be approved for an exemption if they needed it, but I actually would tell them it appears you already meet 630 criteria and would not need a limited distribution approval for this model. So it's basically assuring them they already have it. Or you could say their distribution model is approved as presented, which covers them if someone argues they had to have the exemption or if they did not.
Do you know what section of Act 630 talks about what they're applying for here?
The exemption?
Yeah.
I think it's D. Hold on. D1A.
D1A.
It's on page 4. D1A, line 4, a pharmaceutical manufacturer or a pharmaceutical manufacturer Medicaid request for restricted networks for 6 months or longer shall present the request to the board to explain how the restriction will support, not hinder the mission of the board to promote, preserve, protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of this state. And then it shows everything that we can consider as part of that.
Okay.
The judge's order does not necessarily agree with our take on this, but it's one opinion that was not part of an order as of yet.
So just to give a 20,000-foot overview, are you saying that you think that these applications for exemptions meet the criteria for exemption?
I actually think that this application, like for page 1 through 14, I believe that their application shows that they would already be in compliance with the law as they present it.
Right, because they have multiple.
But because they meet all the criteria.
Yeah.
I think that you could have two choices. I think you could approve this limited, because it's still a limited distribution network. It's just not so limited that it needs an exemption. So I think you could approve it as presented and even point out to them that this presentation appears to already meet all criteria of Act 630 and is granted as presented. So they would not necessarily need an exemption, but they were being proactive in showing that they were doing things right according to the law before the dissonance in this scenario would be that someone would accuse them of running an illegal limited distribution network because they would not let Lynn's Pharmacy down the street from us in the network. If they use this as evidence to present, I don't think that there would be a violation of the act because they already meet the criteria of the act, even if they don't let him in.
So we could protect them from that challenge one of two ways, by either granting the exception and
Yes,
saying it wasn't really necessary, we did it anyway, or turning down the request for an exception, saying it isn't necessary, you already meet all the criteria.
yeah.
So really the question is, do we,
Do you want to be positive towards them
Yeah.
by telling them, hey, thank you for sending this? We're going to grant your request as presented and point out to you that it appears it would already meet the criteria of the law. Basically, it's the happy medium of both, of reassuring them like, first of all, thank you for doing something proactively to make sure you weren't going to get in trouble later. Second of all, thank you for doing what the law basically pointed out in the first place. You don't need a LDN network beyond this, but we'll give you approval as it is presented.
and if they were then subsequently to change the number of locations in the state where the drug is available, what would happen to their exemption?
If we had a complaint that this number changed substantially to where it would not meet the 630 criteria, then I think it's a different decision of would you grant an exemption if they did not, and you're going to see some of those here. Would you grant this 630 exemption as it is presented? Because, and the problem is, if you grant the network, it's granting it as presented, whatever it looks like. Like we're going to have one in a minute that you're going to see a very small, like single digit number of stores that have it. You're going to see some that have 0 stores that have it. Well, if they increase the number of stores that have it, nobody cares. That's fine. But if they went from 50 to 5, then if someone complained to us about it, we would have to pull that review, ask for an update and see if we would pull it. Because we are granting an indefinite amount of time on the limited distribution network. If the circumstances change and we have to reinvestigate, then the board could then vote to withdraw it.
And the thought is the standard for an initial denial and the standard for a revocation of a previously granted approval would be the same from our standpoint?
I believe so. Because it would be, we'll get to a drug in a little bit that I think will answer part of your question. Because there are drugs that, I mean, quite frankly, this one makes pretty good sense of why it only is distributed to this number of entities. There are drugs that will not probably ever be distributed to an Arkansas pharmacy. And I'll give an example. There's a gene therapy that cost a couple of $1 million that we may have one child born in the state of Arkansas in a 10-year period that gets that drug or needs that drug. If they applied for a limited distribution network and they say, we only have one pharmacy in the country able to handle this drug as part of our FDA approval, then we would go approve it as presented. That is fine. If that criteria changes, or if you have to change which pharmacy it is and someone complains, we'd probably still approve that. But there are other drugs that it's an oral oncolytic that was available at 150 pharmacies in the state. And then one day somebody changes their mind and goes, actually, there's only 3 pharmacies. They're all out of state that can handle this. No specialty requirements to handle the drug. No special temperature control or anything else. It's a drug that pharmacies successfully handled without a complaint to the Board of Pharmacy for years. I don't think the board would approve that LDN request unless something else drastic happened with like the supply of the drug that we didn't know or something along those lines.
Is there any way to know whether, is it better if you already meet the exemption and you don't need it? Is there any benefit or whatever to us or them if we don't give exemptions to people that don't need it, or if we just give it to them to say, hey, you made it? Is there a better way?
It may be the wrong approach, but my personal opinion is we have some of these you can tell very specifically. We have a company that is I think absolutely acting in good faith to make sure that they're not going to be crossways with the board. And I think that telling them, we are granting your request as presented, and furthermore, we think that you meet the criteria of the law right now is thanking them for trying to do the right thing. I think if we just said, we don't grant it if we think they might meet it, and not tell them we think, and we could say, we already think you meet it and you don't need it, but we're going to approve it as presented. The next person that argues that it's an issue, they've got that they can show us. We've got, through this process, there are specialty manufacturers that it appears to me they're required to have a permit with the Board of Pharmacy as a manufacturer to even help like broker or have their products used in the state of Arkansas. Some of them just don't have it. So there's one of the things that some people probably argue about is you have to have a permit with the board of some type with your company to even apply for the exemption. And I think there's some companies that either don't have it or it's a subdivision of a larger company that we don't even, like off the top of my head, we wouldn't have known.
Of course, if they don't have a permit, they couldn't supply the drug, period.
Well, where it gets really weird is like you've got AstraZeneca and you've got Alexion down the page. They start on page 144. Well, Alexion is part of AstraZeneca, but I didn't know that off the top of my head. I'm sure I could have found it pretty quickly. So some of these manufacturers are like these little bio companies and oncology companies, they get bought up by bigger players. They keep their name, but you don't realize they got married to somebody else. So we don't see a permit for them, and we would have to figure out how to link that. It's under a different DBA under the parent, but it's not an issue for any of them today.
So we just need to go through and review.
Yep.
All this 201 pages.
Well, it's like 18 drugs.
Yeah, no, I don't mean to make it sound like
No, and so
it's overwhelming.
But I mean, it is overwhelming. This is the easiest way I could figure out how to digest it for everybody.
Not that overwhelming. I mean, you can scroll through.
It's a lot of repetitive information until you get down to the nitty gritty of them. So like number one, that seemed pretty dang easy to me. Number two, pages 15 through 29. If I get down to, these operative, the way that this one filled it out was actually really helpful for all of us. So you get down to page 25, tells you how many distinct pharmacies and dispensing sites with addresses in Arkansas are there, plus how many out of state have the ability to ship in on this drug. And then you look at the list of stores.
Yeah.
I could not make a case that it does not meet 630 criteria. So the third one is fascinating because it starts on page 30. Our staff has had several phone calls with different entities. This one struck me as weird because this ought to be available to any pharmacy on the face of earth, but there's basically the FDA would only approve this product if they had a limited distribution model of like one group of pharmacies. And
they say in their application that they're trying to work with the FDA to be able to provide that to any retail location, but they just haven't been successful.
So that third one, and we had a long verbal conversation with them via Zoom, and they explained all this to us, and then they submitted the paperwork. Like, I think number 3, starting on page 30, like, there's an FDA limitation. The drug company cannot control that, whether they want to or not. So I would grant an LDN exception at this time for it. Because that's the only way it's going to be available in Arkansas.
The one that starts on page 30.
Yep. So like, it's the easiest.
Yeah.
Like, and the reason that one came up was we were in conversation with this company. I was like, hey, we're being told that you've got this product that I've used for people before. It makes no sense at all that it would be an LDN. They're like, what are you talking about? Well, we had seen the news release that the company who is getting it had like made a news release. We sent it to them. They wanted to set up a call the next week. And they're like, look, here's everything that happened with this. Here's what the FDA approval was part of. And part of this is as we know here, sometimes you're told something verbally by a government entity that then if you're asked to have it in writing, you won't get it. But if you want to get it approved, you need to do the following sounds like the game that's being played. So that one, I think is just a flat out, yes, approve it's still an approve it as presented. I don't think you can say that it currently meets 630 criteria because they don't have the ability to distribute in Arkansas.
So you would grant the LDN?
I'd grant that one, like flat out.
This last year, believe me, I think pharmacy. You couldn't get it at Intercom. That's right.
No, that's a brand new thing.
A whole bunch of other states, they couldn't send it to your home.
Can you look at
The Arkansas wasn't a target then.
can you look at the one that starts on page 99? I didn't see a list of, and I may have just missed it, but I didn't see a list of pharmacies.
Page 108 or 106. I'm gonna see if it's in this because I may have missed it on there. If not, I can pull my paper copy.
Yeah, it may have not just been scanned.
Page 97. No, that's not right. I'm wrong too. Sorry.
Page 108 describes, or 107 describes the number of pharmacies.
Oh, okay. I was
in
used to
state.
seeing the table.
Well, it's answered on page 28. Let me see if maybe I just didn't get the table on that. That back page didn't print, apparently. Or didn't scan.
That's good. I just wanted to see how
Yeah.
many there were. That's
But
good.
it's
Looks like an oncology drug.
it is, and it's available at, it's got
Got the major places.
It's got
Yeah.
all the major players for oncology in it, and it has for-profit, not-for-profit, geographic diversity, and educational.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Skip the 99. Everything's okay till 99.
I
Well,
think
I'm just giving
he's
you my
going
opinion.
through.
Everything that I have except for there's the one number that starts on page 30. That's the one that really the drug company can't do anything about that we
Yeah.
had grant. I mean, the one on 37 is just, it's only available to one, if you go in there and look, one place in the state, but it looks like it's a super rare disease. So,
6 patients needed.
yeah.
All the next ones are appears to be.
So I guess I've got more of a question
Yeah.
mark on 37 as far as I think you grant the LDA on that.
I
Or
agree.
the LDN.
And part of that was, I think I said they expressed on that one that other people could apply. So it has an open process. I think the issue in it is people aren't applying because no one has need for it.
Right.
So I think that you could grant that one, just outright grant it, rather than even, because I did not put appears to meet current criteria. So that's the other, I think, yes, for the LDN in this first group for AZ.
Yeah, two of them.
Yeah, I think everything else meets criteria.
Now, if we tell them that they're in compliance, would that prevent, let's say there's a specialty pharmacy or another pharmacy out there that currently doesn't have access but needed access,
They could apply.
are we somehow rubber stamping their current list? Or are we basically saying you don't have to expand anymore?
I think that if we think that their current list of pharmacies meets the criteria laid out in 630, they would not have to accept anybody else no matter. And that's the point of, and I'm picking on Dr. Frouché, but if he applied for the very first drug we got listed, if he applied for that and they denied him and he said they're running a limited distribution network, and we looked at the law and said, well, they have academic, medical, geographic diversity, for-profit, not-for-profit, they already meet the legal criteria. So he may not like it, but they don't necessarily have to. It's not a absolute free-for-all. Everybody on earth has to get in. But if they only had 2 pharmacies that distributed it, and one of them's in, you know, El Dorado and the other one is in Fayetteville, and they don't have a limited distribution network, and he has to get in and can handle the drug, then he has a gripe and they would be running a non-legal LDN. If they got an exemption from us, like page 30, page 37, then they wouldn't have to let him in either, because we understand, like, look, you got single digits of patients, then it's pretty hard to justify that you have to be the third place that has it in the state.
And then on 122, for example.
Let me get over to it. That's a different company, so the
Yeah,
applications
I've
look different.
Yeah. So they're saying, well, nobody from Arkansas has even applied for access to our drug, but we're open for review.
I know.
If we granted an LDN access and then they denied an application that did not meet the spirit of Act 630.
Then a complaint could be filed and we could revisit it.
Okay. And then
Is the way I would look
we
at it.
could revisit the LDN if we
I think-
granted an LDN.
Since no one had even applied, we can't say that they meet 630 criteria because they don't have any distribution in the state. They're saying they would be open to it. So I think we would approve the limited distribution network as presented. And then if we all of a sudden have an uptick in the number of patients that need it and they're not even letting people apply, that does not reflect what they said in their application, and we could call it back up.
Okay.
That makes sense, I think. Because and that one, those first two, 122 and 125, when you look at the specificity of how it is not just a drug, but it's an entire drug delivery, that is very specialized for both of those. I'd heard of the second one before. I don't even know how, but somehow.
But they do need a LD though, if.
They're asking us to approve them for an LDN. I think they're asking us in part to approve an LDN because they do not have anybody in Arkansas distributing it. Part of that is because no one has applied, but they don't want to be in a position of being told they are operating a limited distribution network and don't have anybody, they don't meet the criteria of 630, but they can't help it because no one's applied. So they're saying they would accept applications. So I think if we say approved LDN as proposed, then they're accepting that, they're saying that we would let somebody apply. But on those two drugs, like, they have to be able to deal with that whole delivery system in order to do it. So it's not just storage on that.
Do they list the pharmacies of this second
They did not.
manufacturer?
Well, and the first two did not have any. And then let me look at page 30 or so.
Like number 3 is available, I thought, to anybody.
I did too.
So I don't even know why they've applied for a thing in here.
They did not do as good a job with that, frankly. Low volume, you can tell on page 129, low volume, caseload relative to broad pharmacy utilization for specific things. Like, I think on that one, I think that's a good example where you would say we need more information.
Yeah.
And and that's half of these in this group. Yep. Like, that's a decent number of patients, and that's if used for that subclass of treatment, even though it could be used on larger treatment. But they do have the any pharmacy can apply for access, but I think you would ask for to answer if there are any Arkansas pharmacies, and you could consider it later. But I think like 122, 125, I think you would approve as presented.
Yeah.
And there's another one.
I think 131 needs more information too.
Yeah. Because when you look at the a different note on that one. It's infusion.
Oh, okay.
That was so it was it's cold chain IV infusion oncology.
I wonder if
So-
anybody's even asked for that one.
I doubt it.
So do you think if we approve some of these, even though they say somebody can apply, do you think they'll accept anybody, or they already got what they wanted, so they'll just leave
I
it
think
there?
if people apply, they'll consider it.
But the LDN is not like from now until the end of time.
It's
Right?
well, it's for at least 6 months.
Okay.
Generally is the way that I would look at it. Because if they're trying to do it more than 6 months after a drug, actually there's I'd have to look, there's a clause in it, it has to be for at least a 90-day approval, I think. I'll have my legal counsel research that for me.
I mean, is part of, they're getting the LDN. So then, and they want the
It could- I
LDN,
think
so
it could
would
be,
they?
I think it could be indefinite until someone raises the issue to revisit it. Otherwise, we're gonna have to do this over and over and over.
So if somebody wants to get access to this drug and how would they go about that? Did they come to the Board of Pharmacy at that point and say, oh, I applied to it, the manufacturer said no?
Even though they advertised to you, did they advertise to you that they would accept applications? At which point we would engage with that company and say, you said you would let other companies apply. Now, some of these drugs, like I keep going back to the first drug because it's a prime example. We could deny the LDN application for the first drug, but we would generally acknowledge that they already meet the 630 criteria. So if you applied for access to that drug and they denied you, they already meet the legal criteria, I think, for the state of Arkansas. So they could legally deny you because they already have a sufficient distribution model. So that's where it gets really weird. The line between the two is going to be the ones that do not have a distribution model that would meet 630, get LDN saying that they would allow others to apply. And if someone applies, the fear of the companies is that anyone who applies has to be given access. If it's a drug that has required cold chain and the ability to do sterile IV preparation, well, Lynn, you doing sterile IV preparation? So if you applied and you were upset, I'd say, you do not have a clean room to do this. Therefore, like, we don't have a case to bring against them. But if a pharmacy that did have a clean room, could do cold chain and was adjacent to an infusion center, CAR-T that has all that in-house, we would say, well, you said you would let anybody that meets these qualifications apply. Someone applied, you denied them. We're going to invite you to an informal conference to consider a show cause of whether or not you should be able to maintain your LDN because you are not actually allowing people who meet the criteria to apply.
Ongoing verification, like, so let's say you take any one of these drugs that says you currently have no Arkansas pharmacy, and you could apply. So then somewhere along the way, you get 5 that apply, they all get denied. Then the reasoning is still there, and the fact that they say any Arkansas pharmacy could apply, that also remains true. But you kind of let fall through the cracks the fact that 5 have applied and none have approved.
I think, well, there's two ways to take that. I think one is to say you have to let us know of any applications and denials. Number two is it's a complaint-driven process. So if somebody that has a specialty pharmacy and applier and denied, and they think it was wrongly so, they're going to file a complaint. Like they could file a information request and see everything other than the protected information, which I think would be the pharmacies that are in the network potentially, and the number of patients that are in the network. But they're going to be able to see on the unredacted version, this company said they were going to allow other people to apply, which is why kind of what Mr. Simpson and I were talking about is saying we are approving this as presented and believe you meet 630 criteria currently. If they meet 630 criteria currently, they could deny people. If they don't meet it and are saying they'll accept applications and they just deny everybody, even if they meet criteria, I think that's a conversation for them in person with the board at that point. So it's, do you want us to ask them to update us on that and maintain a rolling list of this? Or do you want it to be complaint based and then we just investigate? I agree. I know which one's way more work.
Yeah, I mean, of course, is there a way that we could set this up such that the reporting is simply on them?
And I think we could require them to tell us. No, it didn't address that.
I've got to need more information on 128 through 138, just because there's really no way to assess whether it's meeting those criteria.
I do not disagree. When I got those applications, they did not have nearly the depth of knowledge as the other two groups. But I think their first two justify approving the application as presented, 122 and 125. Those are quite unique.
Yeah.
But then that takes you down to 144, that is back to the exact same style of application that you had seen before.
Good.
Yeah.
It's much easier to.
It's much easier to digest because you can get down to, you can see question 28 where they very clearly address, it's sideways on those, which is weird.
What page are you on that first one?
Start at 128.
Which one?
I'm sorry, 144.
They list the pharmacies
No.
that have access?
I don't think they have them.
Okay.
It's rare that you can see in my summary how many patients in the state actually have it. And they only have a network of a single pharmacy at this time due to the complexity of disease and treatment. Like for that, it makes sense. I think you just create the LDN.
John, I know we didn't make the rule. We're just having to follow the rule and find a way to follow the rule, for the statute. But what was the point or benefit of having this statute?
I think that is a legislative question that we're not here to answer. You can, if you read the law, they explain all that
They do.
in the preface of the law
Of why they-
and the reasons. And you can go back and watch the testimony on that. I don't think it's really for the Board of Pharmacy to opine on the validity or reasoning.
Statute.
Yeah, I mean, they have a whole, yeah.
No one paragraph.
I'll make a comment on 153 and 156.
Okay.
Just based on what I know for the market, just in the market and where patients are being treated, that they're probably in compliance with those two drugs.
I think that they are.
I would
and
like to be able to tell them, but without them telling us who they've approved access to, it's kind of hard to just make that
Yeah.
statement today.
It is weird because there are two associated companies, and it may just be like on 153, 166, and then we got on the back. I think they did that on these others too.
I was familiar with those three.
Well, I think, page 179, there's only one place anywhere with that low of a number of patients. I think that would just, irrespective of who the pharmacy is, I think we do an LDN on it. The 187, I mean, saying there's no patients in the state, I think you'd grant an LDN on that.
Right.
And then the last one, even though it's oral tablets, there's no patients, no pharmacies. I think you grant it on that because there's no demand for it at all.
Yeah.
But I think on 153, 166, I think you could actually say this would appear to meet 630 criteria. And the board would likely approve as presented, but we would like the list of the pharmacies for our records.
Yes.
Which is kind of the same you're asking for more detail on 128, 131, 135, 138, that we need to know the number and who the pharmacies are, because they didn't really answer that at all.
Here's what I've got, if I can double check with what you've got.
Okay.
I've got in the first section, I'm just gonna go by manufacturer here.
Okay.
I got 30 and 37 grant LDN, and
Okay.
the rest we believe are in compliance with Act 630.
And basically give them the letter of, we would approve as presented, but would note you appear to be in compliance with Act 630.
Correct.
That's what I have.
How long is that good for though? Like if something changes, do these get re-reviewed? Do they,
I think that goes to Dr. Richmond's question.
It's not, it doesn't address that in the statute at all. I mean, the only time frame is like they can restrict anything up to 90 days after that, they have to go through this process. So it is silent about what to do after that. We don't have any obligation.
We're not writing rules.
But I'm saying.
I think
in
that
the
you
future
could, I think
be.
that you could put a note on there that this will last until it is, I mean, I don't know that you want to do annual review of this every time, but I think that you would give them notice of revocation of it anyway. Like the LDN could be terminated upon notice of the board.
process that.
I think the safer way is to make it complaint driven. If we receive a complaint from a pharmacy that thinks that they're in violation, then we can obviously review it. I think that's fair game, but I don't know about an annual, it's not silent to that.
I don't want to say it's valid for a year if we get a complaint in 2 months, so we find out it was violative, because then we would have a letter that said we approved it for a year, and then we would be revoking it before the letter.
Well, wouldn't it be a matter of like, if you presented it this way, we found out that's not exactly the truth, then you've sort of committed fraud here.
That's the way I would do the
And so
complaint.
that would be a licensee committing fraud to obtain, a limited distribution network exception.
Approval.
And that would be a disciplinary matter too. You can handle it that way. It's sticky either way you go.
Another way of looking at it is define, use the language material change from
From the presentation.
From
or
the
from
presentation.
Materials submitted.
Yeah.
Make that a caveat in the approval, I suppose you could do it that way.
I've got to say, I'm concerned that once we grant something like this, we have to have some basis to ungrant it. I mean, so I think putting language like that in the approval, I think is
Prudent.
Is prudent.
Yeah.
Couldn't you say approved as presented and appears to be in compliance? Changes to this approval could occur based on complaint-driven or complaints filed with the board.
Material changes from the applications as presented could result in reversal or revocation of the exemption.
The other thing I would, sorry.
Go ahead.
If we grant an LDN, could we add some language that says something along the lines of if patient demand increases in Arkansas, there would be some type of.
Well, that would be a material change to the application as presented.
Okay.
So if I'm just going to use a number, if the patient load was 5 patients right now and it got another indication, it wound up being 150 patients in 6 months, that's a material change.
Like for example, number 179, I happen to know who that one pharmacy is that's got access to that.
Oh.
But if there was another pharmacy that needed to have access to it, by granting the LDN, are we giving them the right from now until the end of time just to say, well, y'all already granted us the LDN, we don't have to expand our network access?
The way that this law is written, if they get an exemption to operate the limited distribution network, they can maintain exactly what they presented. But it puts them in a weird situation that if you don't approve the LDN, then they have to, the way we've interpreted it, I don't know that the judge necessarily agrees that. We can either grant the LDN for what they presented, or they have to meet 630 criteria. I think the argument in that cases, they have to meet the 630 criteria, whatever. Like we believe based on the testimony and looking at the law, like we have the opportunity to grant them an exemption. That may be a better deal than what the judge thinks the law says.
So so I'm gonna go back to the example of 179.
Yeah.
One pharmacy has access to it in the state because there's only one patient that's being treated by one pharmacy. That doesn't technically meet the criteria of 630, but we're granting the LDN because of the rarity of the disease.
Yes.
If patient demand increases, they're still not meeting 630
Because
if
they've
they
got it.
refuse to expand their access.
They've got an exemption, but if the patient load changes, which would be a material change to the application, and we got a complaint, we would ask them for an update to the application, which could bring reconsideration, and I would say an appearance before the board of the company applying to complaint.
The pharmacy would
Yeah,
know.
like if, a prime example would be, it gets an approval for a whole nother cancer that is also treated by a different facility, and they know that they have 15 patients themselves can't get access to the drug. They complain to the board that there's they're not being allowed access. We review it and go, well, then there appears to be a major material change to this. We would do, I don't know if the right term is show cause, but it would basically be almost like a show cause issue. Show cause why you should continue to have approval for this limited distribution network. Ask for resubmission of it. The board revisits it. And I think at that point, if the board decides this has had a material enough of a change that we're not going to approve the limited distribution network the way it was presented previously because the facts have changed, then I think you make that decision and give them a run out time period, or ask them if they're willing to change their approach of their limited distribution network and see where we get at the board meeting. And if you decide to withdraw their approval for it, that's a decision of the board, like a denial. They would have the opportunity to file a case in circuit court as an appeal. So there's run out periods on that.
But in that revocation, we would be basing it on there's been a material change.
Yes.
That's absolutely critical because we'll lose otherwise, I suspect.
Yeah, it's a different set of circumstances than what it was approved based on. Well, what I'm saying is if we got a complaint, we would investigate to see if there were changes and then ask them before the board with, I would use the general term of a show cause to explain to the board why they should be able to maintain their LDN. And they may come in with a case and the board may agree with them.
Ask you this. Do you believe that the spirit of the law is met such that the squeaky wheel gets the grease? If you make a complaint, it's the industry self-monitoring itself? And is that sufficient? Or even though the statute doesn't call for ongoing monitoring, doesn't say that we can't do it. It may not say that we need to do it, but doesn't say that we can't do it. Would there be some, whether it doesn't have to be annual monitoring, let's say it's a 2 or 3 year cycle, that you have an update of situation, and has there then been a material change which would then call for a renewed review, which meets the spirit of the law?
I don't know. I mean, I'm like, I see the benefit of both sides of that, but we do not have specific guidance from the law of it being a limited or extended time period. I just don't know.
I think the statute only gives us certain amount of authority over this. And so where it doesn't give us the authority, we're reckless if we try to impose that. I'm willing to go to court and argue whatever the board wants to on that. But I think this specific statute gives us the authority, and it outlines in the statute only. So I'm not sure there's any other mechanism we could do to enforce this.
So you don't need practice and say, well, I didn't say that. Or no, it's not. Well, I don't want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have limited authority, then active, but it's practical, that we just let it be complaint-based.
But I think when we're talking complaint-based, the complaint isn't they won't let me in the plan, in the limited plan we've approved. The complaint would be that the basic circumstances on which the exemption was granted have changed.
Well, I
They don't let me in the plan.
think that the complaint would be, they're not letting me in the plan. And I believe the circumstances have changed because some of those circumstances wouldn't be publicly viewable or knowable. Because if the center that's treating the other cancer is now approved for, like they know what they see, but they may not know how many patients there were upon application. They may not know how much it's gone. So it could be, we've got 10 patients that have this. Well, the number may have been 10 before, it's just a different 10 patients.
Well, but if the exemption were repealed and someone said, you're still not letting me in the plan, then the consideration would be whether that they're in compliance with the act or not.
And if the pharmacy would actually qualify for it. Now, this is a different disagreement that people have looked at this different ways. There are two arguments in this which are fascinating, Harold. One of which is anyone who applies must be given access to the drug. And I do not feel that way because there are pharmacies that cannot legally possess the drug because they cannot possess it as it is required to be possessed. Like and the example I give is if there's a drug that requires ultra cold storage, or you have to have a freezer that's at negative 20 degrees Celsius. If you just got the refrigerator we got in there, you do not have the legal authority to obtain and store that drug because you don't even have the equipment to do it. But there's a different legal argument that the way that the law could be interpreted or read, which we do not at this time, is anyone who applies, if that pharmacy adds to the geographic nature of it or something else, then it has to be approved. But that doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, well then, if that's what the law required, that you had to give it to them, well, the law requires me to give this kid a case of vodka if he says pretty please, but as soon as he possesses it, he's in illegal possession of it. So then the kid is in trouble. So it's okay, well, if the law says they got to be given access, all you got to do is complain to the Board of Pharmacy that they can't legally get it. And then they're in trouble with the Board of Pharmacy for possessing it.
Well, assume that a company will not accept somebody into their network. Is that a Board of Pharmacy issue or is that a court issue?
It could be a Board of Pharmacy issue if it is in violation of this law.
Got to think about that one.
Oh, have you read the 55 pages?
I've read a lot, most of it.
You've had a heyday with it, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. I don't agree. But
I understand. Yeah. But it is a fascinating read. And I think part of it for us is whenever we see legislation, we listen to the testimony of how the intent is being interpreted as presented to pass the law. So. I mean, and part of the point is, the law says the board may grant LDNs. It doesn't say the board shall grant LDNs. The board has the opportunity to review these. But if you operate an LDN and you don't have it approved, then you face like monumental fines. That's the argument. You face monumental fines.
Yeah.
If you are operating an LDN and it's not approved. So like on these drugs that there's only, there's 0 people in the state of Arkansas that have need for the drug, and therefore there's no pharmacy that's included in the distribution chain and no one has applied. I would suggest granting the LDN as presented at this time. Otherwise, someone says, I wanted access to this drug and they wouldn't give it to me and they don't have an LDN approved. So then the board is in a position where we shall fine, not we may fine, but we shall fine. I think it says shall fine them.
You know, my concern is,
Yeah.
my concern, to continue to beat the dead horse.
Yeah.
Is by granting an LDN, we may be giving them an opportunity to limit access. And there have been drugs that have come on the market. You know, I think about Thalidomide. You know, yeah, or maybe that's not the best example, but maybe they get approved for a rare orphan disease, but then they're found to work in some other disease state that's not an orphan disease. And we've granted an LDN, and you've got pharmacies in the state that for patient access reasons need access. What did we land on there? Would it be complaint driven? Where if the requirements of Act 630 weren't being met, that would be a complaint to the Board of Pharmacy? Or are we just unclear on that, just the way the statute's written?
I think that it starts with a complaint with us. I mean, it only assigned this to us. I mean, now, and don't forget, I went to find this. Even if you have a limited network, the limited network shall allow some pharmacies in the state upon request or application participate and access the medications to meet the needs of patients with same day access without using. So even if we grant the limited distribution network, it still has to have an opening for a pharmacy that can meet the criteria to do that. So that's on page 4, line 23. So, and I'm sorry, Clint, I didn't bring this up earlier for Dr. Boone, but even if we are approving the limited distribution network for the ones that don't have Arkansas-based distribution now, they have to be open to accepting someone for same-day delivery according to law, even if we approve the LDN. So that kicks in you filed a complaint. Yeah. Well, my thought is it would be complaint because otherwise we don't necessarily know. And if I have a pharmacy that says, hey, I want to access this drug and it's you look at my list wherever, here, right here, and it's an Alexion drug, I don't know who to reach out to. I'm going to send you the contact of the people who sent me this. So like, here's the guy's name, here's his contact information. Feel free to copy me on your thing because if we grant page 1 or 179, if we grant an LDN on that, the law still says they have to potentially allow people in it. So if there is a material change that there's now a patient in Arkansas that needs it and someone is applying, they go, we don't accept applications. You go, well, that's a different 630 violation. And that's not what you told us that you would approve it. So we're going to do a show cause and you come explain to the board why you're not complying with this area of the law or with what you presented.
And so there's no time that we're ever going to review this again as a board short of a complaint being filed. Unless new drug application.
Unless you want on all these approvals to put a specific time in it for review.
Well, did they never have to submit anything to the board again outside of just one time? They might call and say, hey, we still have this many pharmacies or, these pharmacies have closed. They're no longer offering it. We haven't added any more. Our patient load has increased and, now we see this many patients in the state and it was this, but we haven't changed our number of pharmacies that have it available.
I mean, we could ask them for that, say,
Yeah, it's just not in the statute for giving us authority to do that. So I would be nervous about us creating a whole nother obligation for these applicants to jump through. That's why I think the complaint base is the cleaner way to do it.
We do issue a LDN and a pharmacy files a complaint and the board finds that is substantiated, then we can fine, or we shall fine them $10,000 per day that's.
If they violated it, yes, we shall fine them $10,000 per day.
I think that in your example, if there's been a material change, that is the reason to reverse the approval of the LDN.
Yes.
If they are just in pure violation of the law, then I think it's when it is automatic fining.
Yeah.
So is there a
Well, we have to go by the letter of what the law says. So the
So-
legislative
yeah.
intent is sort of
Out the window.
out the window.
It's kind of like when you, even in the act itself, you have like, do not codify or do not codify the following. That's fun, but it's not actually part of the law. So like we have laws with titles. We've got one about, the transfer prescriptions, and then it got modified to where it didn't even have anything to do with the transfer prescription. So people are like, well, the title says this. And I'm like, the title's not the law. The title is what they called the law. The description section at the front of a lot of them, and I know, Harold, you've seen this a bunch. It's here are all the reasons for it. And then it gets the law and they'll go modify it. And it doesn't even match what the intent would say. So the intent and the legislation, like we listen to it based on what we think are instructive. But especially when it goes to court, and what we are dealing with is we only have the law to deal with.
Yeah, it's a due process argument. They have to have notice about what's required of them. So we can't kind of read into this legislative intent and said, oh, well, it says this, but they meant this, so we're going to add this. We'll run afoul of the law.
Additionally, can we not just grant the limited distribution network for six to 12 months? Because D1A says a pharmaceutical manufacturer for Medicaid that requests for restricted networks for 6 months or longer shall present the request to the board.
All right, so that's relating to an above section where they can't have it for more than 90 days or more than 6 months. So it's in reference to their introductory period that they can have.
Right.
So it's not saying that we approve it. It's a new drug comes out. They've automatically got that 3-month and 6-month timeline. If they want to operate their limited distribution network longer than that 6 months on the introduction of a new drug.
So whatever we're approving is then permanent.
Well, I think it's till there's an alternative decision of the board.
Do we need to come up with a process for compliance on that, or pharmacists?
Oh, I mean,
Patients submitting patients.
I think anyone could submit it. We've got a complaint tool right on our front page of our website even. I think that most of the people that are dealing with a drug like this are going to be savvy enough that they're going to be calling our office and going, what is the deal on this? Like, what all can you tell me that's, publicly available on this drug? Or they'll file a FOIA for it, and we'll give them that, have to make the necessary redactions, and give it to them. And if they don't think that that's what's being met, then it's a complaint to us, and we have to look at it to see if we believe there's merit to it or not as staff. I understand what Ashley's saying. If we create an additional administrative process not allowed by the law, such as you have to submit the following annually. I mean, if we have at some point and the board says we're going to request this information, I think we can do that. I think if we try to set it up on the front end, there's a whole argument that they created an administrative process that was not outlined in the law, which is another.
And this might be ripe to look at the next session, this statute.
I've got the same notes you had on all of it so far. We had these other two that, I mean, literally, I happen to see them in my box at lunch. And I think
Can we deny a permanent request and just issue a temporary?
What?
Can we deny permanent and just issue a temporary waiver?
Where did it say temporary?
Number 3 here. Or are we required to?
I think we're in 4, not 3. I think that's for payment.
Okay.
I almost see that as a waiver for payment. This is a waiver for, I'd have to. go back and look at it.
Those two are in compliance.
I think that they both meet criteria currently. This other section, I mean, if you were to look at the strict criteria of the statute of like educational medical center, for-profit, not-for-profit, geographic diversity, I think that they both currently meet criteria. I don't know that we would grant an LDN on either one. We don't, because we'd ask for more information. What is the number of patients in the state? Like, they didn't even answer some of that. There it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I've got 8 noted for granting.
I think that these two would match what you did with like number 1, number 15.
Well, yeah. For the potential granting of an LDN, I got 30, 37, 122, 125, 144, and then the 3 on the back here.
Yep.
You got.
And
I think this just, you're in compliance with.
Yeah, so I think what Dr. Jolly is saying that might be a motion is to make a motion to approve, just flat out approve the LDN application as presented with the material change language for page 30, 37, 122, 125, and the 3 that are on the back, 179, 187, 194.
I had 144 too.
Did I skip that? Oh, I have 144. I just skipped it.
And then I've got need more information on 128, 131, 135, 138, 153, 166.
I have that. And then on the others, including the 2 from today,
do nothing.
They appear to meet criteria of Act 630 currently as presented. Is that a motion?
Yeah.
A reluctant motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Jolly. Is there a Dr. Richmond seconded? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Man, that was a quick 30 minutes.
We can just have this, we want to read it Thursday.
Yeah. Is anything else? Primer for tomorrow. Nine o'clock tomorrow. Tomorrow is all hearings. We have done our best on how long we think that they will last. May go short, may go long, we will see. That's all the suffering I have for you today, unless anybody else has anything for us. Yes, sir.
Did we set a meeting date in August yet?
July, we're talking about doing for sure informal. For anybody, 28th, 29th is what we're looking at. If everybody can make sure between today and tomorrow. And it's informal, it doesn't have to be everybody. If we end up having another round of LDN, we will just have to make sure that we at least have a quorum to do that and would notice that up as a full board meeting.
But we don't have an August date set yet.
That July is instead of August. We can do it in July. I think tech applicants will be happier.
Do we plan for?
Oh, I think I'm hoping that
Last
we're
one
done.
scheduled at 1:30.
Yeah, we're scheduled for 1:30 and I think it's pretty straightforward, but oh, Lena just reminded me you have to do elections.
Okay. Who's Debbie, you're president, right?
I'm him, but.
This is your year though, right? Oh, no.
I think
She's finishing president right now. She would be passed. Doesn't that put Dr. Newsom up?
it does.
Who's behind Dr. Newsom? think it's Dr. Boone, isn't it?
And then from Lynn. So that would be
And typically.
Lenore president, vice president and vice president, and then what, does Lynn get a title?
No, it would be, Debbie would be, past president,
Okay.
chairperson. It's the way they've treated it before.
I mean, I nominate Nora for president and Clint for VP.
A motion, I guess, so you'd call that a motion,
Yeah.
a nomination?
Yeah.
Do I have a second? Okay, that was Dr. Jolly and Dr. Richmond seconded. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion.
And that would
passes.
carry
Well,
Dr. Mack over to the chairperson, past president. Yes, that's after this meeting. All right. I think that's all I got. Motion to adjourn. See you guys at 9 tomorrow.
Well, sorry, those potential lawyer people that out here, they really evaluate.